This is Your Own Best Company, a podcast for people who love to work alone. Hey there, everybody. Franklin Taggart here, and this is Your Own Best Company, a podcast that is for people who love working alone. This podcast was my idea because I am a person who really loves working alone. I get the best work done if I have a room with a door and lots of time to myself. My guest today is someone I'm really excited for you to meet. Sabrina Victoria started out as a struggling single mom and escaped a 13-year abusive relationship. Her tenacity and her optimistic spirit has inspired fans worldwide and has helped endless amounts of people break through and discover their own untapped talents and immense potential. Now she's the creator and CEO of Human Better 365, a human transformation company. She's the creator of Her Version podcast, which I am a growing fan of. I can't wait to talk more about that. And she's also the founder of the Sober Society community. She's a speaker, entrepreneur, and author. Wow, Sabrina. How are you gonna put all of that to the test and prove it for us? That is an amazing introduction.
Yes, it's a lot, but that's the way that my mind works. I love going in several different directions. My mind is very creative and active and bright and brilliant. And when I feel pulled, I create.
It's a beautiful thing. Now, one of the other things that I've noticed about you in both your presence in the places that we've met online and in looking at some of the things that you contribute, both through your podcast and social media channels and even on your website, is that you live with boldness. Can you talk about, has that always been something that has been a part of your experience, or is that something that you've come to later in your life?
I do want to say that it has always been in me. However, it was stifled.
Yeah.
So, if you knew me before probably 22, maybe a little before that, I was very shy. I was very timid. I didn't really have a voice, so quiet and like scared. It used to be kind of like a joke that I would hide behind my mom all the time. Didn't want to speak, had very, very low self-esteem, no confidence.
Mm-hmm.
But what's so interesting about it is, and I talk about this a lot, just in my story, is I had this constant like bubbling up, this little like percolating power that I felt inside my body, where I always kind of felt as if this is not who I'm supposed to be. I'm actually supposed to be somebody else.
Yeah.
But just stepping into that, I guess, fear has led me to where I am now. And it took a while for me to actually like step into that, into my voice, I guess, or into my power. But I remember that being like a constant thing in my thoughts, as far as like, this is not like, I was waiting for like just the right time to step into it.
So there was always an awareness, but it wasn't always quite at hand. It wasn't manifested all the way.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that I find very interesting, I've talked to a lot of people who have that sense about themselves, that there's something here. There's something powerful here. And one of the things that I've found as a common thread for many of them is that they find themselves in relationships or in situations that are harsh, that are dominating, controlling, and that power isn't allowed to come forward in the relationship. And it sounds like that your story includes some of that kind of a pathway. Can you talk a little bit about the types of situations that you attracted and how they ultimately led you to embodying this powerful person?
Yeah. So it starts out young. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. My parents converted by the cliche of door knocking. So Jehovah's Witnesses get the bad rap a lot of door knocking, but they convert. My parents converted when I was they door knocked when I was 3. By the time I was 5, my parents were fully baptized, and I was raised predominantly as a Jehovah's Witness. The pivoting point for me was when I was 20 years old. I became pregnant with no husband, which is a huge no-no.
Yeah.
And during that time in my life, the most influential parts of your life, there was a lot of just not being able to use my voice, not being able to question things, not being able to be curious about anything other than the truth or the word, as they put it. But the pivot point when I was 20 years old and getting pregnant kind of threw me out into the world. I got disfellowshipped, which means you're shunned basically from your family, friends, community. And I was thrown out into the world, and I led a very isolated, lonely, sinful, dark, helpless life. No money. The kind of poor was like being negative $178 in your bank account and then digging in the couch cushions for 42 cents to put gas in your car, just so that you could drive to the gas station, put 42 cents in, and when you get back in your car, it still registers as empty, like that kind of poor. Eviction notices on my apartment door every single week. And soon after that, kind of mulling around in that life and suicidal thoughts and wanting to throw my baby out the window because I was dealing with postpartum issues. Just so much heaviness to deal with all by yourself.
Yeah.
I met a man, and that man had red flags stapled all over his body. But I was just so desperate for love. I was in such a state of like despair. I just ignored all the negatives, and I fell into that relationship hook, line, and sinker with all of his manipulations that I didn't know were manipulations. They were candy coated with being a savior. And, he convinced me to move in with him, move in, you don't have to pay rent, just take care of the house, and quit your job, build, work with me and we'll build an empire together. And don't worry about your phone bill, use my phone. Don't worry about your car. Let me buy you a car. And before I know it, I turn around, I look around, and he's controlling every part of my life.
Yeah.
I have absolutely nothing. I have no money. I have no material, anything besides my clothes and my son, obviously. And the mental abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and obviously financial abuse got worse and worse and worse. And the turning point in that story is 8 years in. I'm on the floor, in the bathroom, in the dark, bawling my eyes out, just having a total breakdown with the lack of everything in my life. And I always say that Google saved my life. I Googled, why is my boyfriend bullying me? Because I didn't know any other vernacular other than that. And the entire world of toxic relationships and abuse and narcissism and empathy and codependency just hit me right in the face. And I just became addicted. I dove headfirst into personal development, finances, wealth, finding your voice, power, confidence. Very soon after that, I opened up a secret bank account. I opened up a secret storage unit. I started 3 online businesses slowly.
Yeah.
And over the course of 4 years, I was able to collect $50,000 and literally escape that relationship. I took my clothes, or our clothes, my son, and my bicycle. And I started totally over from scratch with a mattress on the floor. And that was stepping into fear. That was stepping into my courage or my confidence. And knowing that I had to trust myself. And it was super, super scary. But again, a journey, which I know you talk a lot about, a journey that I had to go on in order to gain the power that I needed to create the things that I am creating in my life now.
You said there were red flags from the beginning, and you talked yourself kind of out of those just because you were in kind of a desperate situation. But can you talk a little bit about how you knew when, before you reached that point in the bathroom where you were sobbing on the floor, how did you start to know that you needed to get out of there?
It's interesting. I knew 2 weeks in.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. There was the abuse started immediately, but like I said, I was just so desperate for like attention, and the way that the religion that I was associated was worked. There was this like, when you want to get back with Jehovah's Witnesses, if you want to get back into the community, back with your family, not only can you not talk to them, but you also can't talk to anyone outside the religion, because you're told that God wants you to concentrate on only God.
Yeah.
So like prayer, Bible study only. Do not associate with anyone outside the religion. Do not associate with anyone in the religion. So you're left completely isolated in a manipulative way, trying to just claw your way back into your community.
Right.
So because I was just like, I had nobody. He was paying attention to me. He was taking me out to dinner. He was taking me to the movies. He was being very nice to my son. That the lashing out, the undermining, the hurtful words that he would say to me, I was just like, who cares? He wants to spend time with me. Who cares? He keeps showing up for me. Just, and also just being naive to like, that people this awful existed. I didn't even know that there was mean people like this mean, and then he, would convince me that it was my fault. So, him getting mad at me about something was me doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So if I just would do it better, then this wouldn't even be an issue. So just clean better and speak better and hold myself better and don't be so emotional and don't be so dramatic and hold in my feelings. It was always my fault, my fault, my fault. So I was just, instead of being like, there's something wrong with you, I was just so concentrated on trying to do better myself the whole time. So red flags now, looking back, I mean, they were neon now, looking back. But at that point, it was like, yeah, he's mean, but I mean, it's kind of my fault. So, he wouldn't have to be so mean if I would just be a better girlfriend. So it was difficult. I mean, it's difficult thinking about it. It's difficult knowing that I was so young and so naive and so innocent, and that I justified it. I mean, I feel very sad for that person, for that girl who had to do that, and had to endure that and had to justify that. I feel sadness for her.
Yeah.
But she didn't know.
That's right. And how could you? I mean, in the system that you grew up in, there just wasn't a model for that. There wasn't any way to have that understanding, right?
Yeah. And a lot of it too, exactly like what you just said, it seemed as if he was given to me.
Yeah.
Like he was a gift from God, maybe.
Yeah.
So as this stuff was happening, I also was kind of justifying it, because I was like, well, this is what I deserve. I'm such a bad person. I'm such a sinner. I'm such a horrible daughter and a horrible follower of God, that this is my punishment, and I have to endure this punishment in order to prove my that I'm resentful, that I feel bad, that I'm sorry. So each little obstacle that would come my way, I would take it with like a punishment. Like, I deserve this. And then if I just keep just enduring the punishment, then one day God will look at me and say, you know what? That's enough punishment. Good for you. And he'd invite me back into the flock.
Yeah.
So it's very multidimensional, you know?
So even God was narcissistic.
Yes. He was.
Even
Yes.
God,
That's a
even
whole
God,
other story.
even God made it all your fault.
Yes. 100.
The other thing that I find very inspiring about your story, Sabrina, is that your discoveries, your realizations, and your strategies for changing your life, they didn't happen overnight. They happened over a longer period of time. And I really feel like that it's important for people to understand that this wasn't a magic pill that you took or a magic button that you pushed. You undertook a pretty rigorous, I don't know, I don't want to call it an adventure. I don't even want to call it a journey, because I don't see it as that, but you really took on a rigorous course for yourself that, you know, included a lot of study, a lot of learning, a lot of humility, a lot of, you know, laying yourself out there and saying, I don't know why it's this way, but I want it to change, and I'm willing to learn what I need to do. At any point during that, were there times when you would just say, I just need to buck it up and make the best of what I'm in? Or did you know for sure that you just really needed to leave?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day until the day I left.
Wow.
Even with my companies I was creating, even with my secret bank account and my money growing, even up until the day that I left, I was questioning it.
Yeah.
On like just staying. Who cares? I already know what to expect. At that point, it's 13 years.
Wow.
13 years in. I already knew. I knew what to expect. I knew how to, like, you know, guard myself and shield myself from certain things that he was saying. I knew that even though he was so mean and he was so manipulative, I knew that, like, he wanted me there.
Yeah.
He wanted me there. So there's a risk in that. There's a risk in leaving and someone else not wanting me. There's a risk of not being able to make it. You know, he would tell me, you know, one of the things that he would tell me all the time was, whoever makes all the money makes all the rules.
Oh,
This is
wow.
how he would get me to be quiet. Yeah. So whenever I'd start to be like, hey, maybe we should do this, or hey, blah, 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 he'd say, hey, whoever makes all the money makes all the rules. Do you make any money? No.
Oh my gosh.
Or he'd say, hey, whoever has all the money has all the power. Do you have any money? No.
Oh my gosh.
So there's this constant fear, yes, and this constant debilitating notions that are being put on my thoughts of, like, holy shit, like, I have no power, I have no voice, I have no confidence. There's no way. He would tell me that if I ever left, I would, within a year, I'd be in the back of a I'd be living in a cardboard box behind a dumpster. That's
Oh
what he
my
would tell
God.
me. Like, within a year of you leave me, if you ever leave me, within a year, you'll be living in a cardboard box behind a dumpster. That is a fear
Yeah.
of, like, holy crap, I don't even know if I can do this. And to crawl back to him saying, you were right, I have no money and I have no way of making money and I can't, was horrifying.
Yeah.
Horrifying for me. So what's easier than enduring all of that? Just staying.
Yeah.
Just stay, you know, just stay where I'm at. And then I don't have to worry about his backlash or his degrading or crawling back on my hands and knees. And I love that you're talking about the journey of the ups and the downs, because I think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't recognize that, you know, people will start to question themselves, like, maybe I'm not that serious about this, because sometimes I wake up and I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go off the rails for a week or 2 weeks and I just totally ignore this thing that I'm working on, whatever it is, your weight, your business, your relationship, your mental health, whatever it is. But there's valleys, there's mountains, there's valleys, there's ups, there's downs, there's twists, there's turns. And I questioned myself every single day. But what I did, and this is how I was able to escape, I did two things. The first thing I did was I journaled every single argument.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that you get gaslit so much and the love bombing is so strong that in an instant you forget all the shit.
Oh, wow.
And they also tell you that the way that I'm remembering it is wrong. It wasn't that bad. So I started to journal. I started to keep a register of everything. So I could actually flip back on my own and say, you know what? I'm not fucking crazy. This did happen. That's number one. Number two, I planned an escape plan knowing that I didn't have to escape.
No, that's.
So when I started my secret bank account, I did not start my secret bank account with the heaviness of once I get blah, blah, blah money, I am going to leave. I started my bank account with the thought process of, hey, I want to be able to have options.
Yeah, it's like if you have your own money, you can make your own rules, right?
Yeah, exactly. So then at any point,
yeah,
I could decide to leave. Because what happens in these relationships is you go up and down, you're in the down, and you're like, F this bullshit, I'm out. And then you look around, and you're like, I can't leave. I can't leave right now. I have no money. I haven't prepared anything. So I thought to myself, I need to be smarter than myself right now. So I have to create a plan so that when I do have these feelings, I can actually leave. So you have to I had to be one step above myself.
Right. The thing that I'm really curious about, it's like, even after you had your secret bank account and your secret storage unit and I'm assuming that the businesses were secret as well.
Yep.
All right. How long were you engaged in those underground activities until you actually finally you said you reached the point where you had $50,000 saved up and you knew that you could do it at that point? How long did it take to get there?
The money story, and I don't talk about this as often as I probably should. The money story is so traumatizing for me.
Yeah.
It took me a year to collect $6,000, which is a long time to collect $6,000. But remember, I'm doing this secretly. I don't even know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I like no clue what I'm doing. It took $6,000. One day, I'm in our kitchen. I'm looking at my secret bank account. I have $6,000. I've never had this much money in my whole life.
Wow.
In my whole life. I literally feel like a millionaire. I am so excited right now. I can't even breathe. So excited. Yeah. So one day I'm in the kitchen. I have my bank account open on my computer, and my boyfriend, whatever, comes in behind me up the stairs. I hear him, and I'm like, dude, he's always knocking me for not being smart. Even though at this point, by the way, I'm running his entire business by myself. He's golfing. Okay. So we're bringing in at this point, like millions of dollars. I am doing this, but he keeps telling me I'm stupid, dumb, I have no business sense, never went to college. I had the $6,000 and I'm like, I want him to see this.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to be like, hey, listen, I am smart. Look what I did. But I knew I couldn't show him. But my ego got in the way. Sometimes our ego gets in the way.
Yeah.
And he comes up, and I knew to close it. I knew to close the window. And I just 2 seconds too slow left it open. Ego just, got it. And he saw the $6,000. Yeah. Took my computer, threw it across the living room. It did not break. Freaked out 10 times 10 of how ungrateful, how dare I, secrets. I'm unloyal. I'm a cheater, double life, just
Yeah.
ripped into me. And my little tiny allowance that he was paying me at that time, which was $250 a week to run his entire business, clean the entire house, buy all the groceries. So I was left at the end of the month with no money, literally every month, no money from him. He stopped paying me that little
Oh, wow.
250. Now I'm working and doing everything for free. And he said, you're going to keep doing everything you're doing and use your own money because you have money.
Oh
So
my
use your
God.
own money if you need money. You don't even need my money. It was horrified. Oh, I was horrified.
No kidding.
Horrified. So I did that for 6 months and I used up all of my money.
Yeah.
Back down to zero. However, I still was working, but all that, just flushed out. So basically just flushed, right? But I'm still saving. So I start saving again. All my money goes away, and then I go back on, right? 6 months later, I go back on the payroll, $250 a week, whatever it is. Doesn't even matter because it's zero. Second time, 2 years later, $30,000.
Wow.
I'm getting better. I'm getting good.
Yeah.
That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. $13,000. Sorry.
Okay.
$13,000 in 2 years. Not getting better. I call my son's father. Hey, I'm leaving my abuser. I'm done with this crap.
Yeah.
I'm moving out. I'm just letting you know because I'm really scared. I'm really nervous. I'm looking for apartments, but I can't do this anymore. I just wanted to have you in on the know. He's like, okay, awesome. Good for you. Girl power. Cool.
Yeah.
A month later, he asked to take my son on a camping trip. Sure, no problem. Takes him on a camping trip. He's supposed to be back on Sunday.
Oh no.
No call, no show.
Oh my God.
Send him an email or send him a text. Hey, you bringing him back? What? He's like, I'm no longer contacting you through email or through text, email only. He blocked me on all social media, him and his fake fiance with their son.
Oh, wow.
Open up the email. The email, long story short, says, thank you so much for taking care of my son over the next 11 years. I appreciate all your help. I got it from here. He had moved in with his fiance overnight. I had no idea where they lived. It was a fiasco.
Yeah.
An entire year, $18,000 in lawyer fees means that I'm now negative $5,000 from that $13,000 that I had saved up is now all gone. Zero.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm sitting in the car at the lawyer's office. I now have a contract of the child parental rules.
Yeah.
It costed me $18,000.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in my car. I'm bawling my eyes out, hitting the steering wheel, all dramatic, like I am in the movies. Just why does this keep happening to me over and over and over again? I'm doing all the things that the gurus are telling me to do. I'm working hard. I'm showing up 100%. I'm doing all the things. I'm saving. I'm investing. I'm trying so hard, having a good attitude, being a good mom. And just keeps the carpet just keeps getting pulled from under me over and over again. I am destined to live in this hell for the rest of my life, obviously.
Yeah.
It was horrifying. And I had to make a decision right there in my car. Am I going to let this break me, or am I going to do it again? I don't even know why I chose to do it again.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I have no idea why. There was no reason to.
Yeah.
There was no, it was so obvious that the universe was wanting to punish me for the rest of my life. It was obvious, obviously.
Yeah.
Any other person would quit. Fine, whatever. It's way easier just to sit here and take a punch every once in a while, metaphorically, not literally.
Yeah.
Than it is to do all of this on 3 to 4 hours of sleep, working my ass off.
Yeah.
But I did it again. And in 1 year, $31,000.
Wow.
Yep. Opened up that secret storage unit, started moving my stuff over. finally found a place, started moving my stuff over, did all the things. I was living in 2 different locations completely.
Yeah.
And then one day, he was running the RoboVac. I was living in a spare bedroom at this time. We had split rooms. I couldn't take it anymore. My money was growing. My confidence was growing. My power was growing. I knew that I could survive without him because I had been through so much crap.
Yeah.
But I actually decided to live in a separate bedroom and just see what would happen. Because if he kicked me out, I knew that I could live.
Yeah.
Because I had learned how to make money. And so I was living in a separate room. All of my stuff was out of my room. I moved it all into my place at this point. So I'm sleeping there, but not living there. He's running the RoboVac, opens up my door, opens up my closet, which had been slowly diminishing. But he was actually very respectful of my situation, my area. He did not go into my area, but he opens up the doors and there's one dress in the closet.
Oh, wow.
He calls me up immediately. What the hell is going on? And I'm like, I'm leaving. Sorry about that. And I came over, I grabbed my one dress, my toothbrush, my one pair of pajamas, and literally left. I took my bicycle. He took my car because the car was his.
Yeah.
Phone was his, computer was his, everything was his. Left everything behind. I jumped on my bicycle with my dress and my pajamas, and I rode to my new house. And that was Pivot.
Wow.
But even that, right? Even that, like, oh, the plan, like, yeah, just plan stuff. The plan gets messed up.
Oh, yeah. Nothing ever goes according to plan.
Yes. And this is where people give up. People give up at 1, at 2, at 3. But this is what I told myself. I told myself that I would rather work my entire life trying to get out of this place than to just lay back and let all of this abuse happen to me. Because at least if I was working towards that, there was a little tiny itty bitty light at the end of my tunnel. And that's what I was working towards.
For those of you who are just joining us, I am talking with Sabrina Victoria of Human Better 365, and she is telling us a story that is both spellbinding and somewhat horrifying, and in the end, very hopeful. And Sabrina, I'd like to talk a little bit about what were the opportunities that you found business-wise that you could do that allowed you to build up that reserve that allowed you to have your freedom?
Yeah. So the first one was simple. It was eBay.
Okay.
I just started selling. Every most moms want more than one child. So I had saved all of my son's stuff.
Yeah.
And at this point, I recognized I didn't want to have any children with this man. So I was like, why am I keeping all of this stuff? So every single day, secretly, I would list maybe 5, 10 items. And I had an entire, I guess, like packing station in the trunk of my car. So if I got any sales, I would just casually go in and put the clothes that were purchased inside my bag, leave for work, and then package everything in the trunk of my car, and then drop it off at the post office. And that's how I started, made my first few thousands of dollars. After that, I got onto OfferUp, which I would just meet people in the parking lot. So people would say that they wanted some stuff. I would just cue in on approximately what that stuff looked like, the age, the decor, whatever it is. And I'd grab other things from my house that I was selling, put them in the trunk of my car. So when they came to buy something that was $11, I try to upsell them. Like, hey, I also have this shirt. Or I also have this toy, or I also have this lamp, or whatever it was. And that $11 would turn into, $32 or whatever it was. And every single thing, every single piece of money would just go into the bank account.
Yeah.
And I really envisioned myself as a squirrel, and I still do this now, of just like collecting money. So like just hopping to money, like, where's the money? Just getting the money. And I would just put it into my little secret bank account. So those were the first 2 that I clung on to. Super, super easy. And and low key, the second, or the, I guess, third, if you want to call it that, but I'd say second business was Fiverr. So
Okay.
at this time in my life, I had started doing YouTube videos on health and wellness. Remember, I had gotten into personal development because at
Yeah.
this point is after that turning point with Google saving my life. So I started getting into coaching. I got secretly certified, you know, at a few little places, got into health and wellness, and I started doing YouTube videos. I had the computer that he had for me for work. I would just use the camera to make little YouTube videos. Well, because I started becoming an expert at, you know, intros, outros, you know, the content, editing, all this stuff, I was really good at it. So I started an account on Fiverr.com, as a one of those people that would give testimonials, or give, like, they would give you their, you know, their makeup or their mask or their book or whatever, and you have to do a review on it.
Yeah.
And then I would also do like the intro person for websites. So when you click on a website, the first person that you see, so I'd be like, welcome to XYZ company, you know, we do blah 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 here. I was like that spokesperson.
Okay.
And I actually did really awesome on Fiverr. I want to say I made total probably close to, because I kept doing it afterwards,
Yeah.
probably close to like $60,000.
That's great.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I reinvested. So I wound up getting a cute little Nikon camera,
Yeah.
and started doing the videos on there, and did really, really, really well with that. And then the third business was my coaching. I opened up a little website. It was called pureaspirations.net, and it was all health and wellness. And I was predominantly on Instagram, you know, promoting my coaching packages or my recipes or my workout plans or whatever, and made, you know, a few $1,000s doing that, just learning how to put together coaching plans, having no clue what I was doing, and just all that money would just flow into that one bank account.
That's so great. So
yeah, crazy.
you started your coaching business, and it morphed and changed and ultimately became much more about some of this transformational development that you have not only gone through, but you've helped to facilitate now for many people. And tell me a little bit about how your coaching started to move in that direction.
Yeah, so I originally started with health and wellness. Then it morphed into emotional mental health, and then it morphed into time management organization. So I predominantly work in an arena of helping people really structure and organize their lives. I realize now, looking back, that the reason I was able to do what I've done as far as escaping all of that is because my mind works very much like a puzzle. And when I see a problem or I see a situation, instead of being overwhelmed by all of the moving parts of it, I'm really good somehow at like kind of pulling it all apart and then putting it back together in a really nice, organized way. So that's what I do with, you know, personal and business. I believe that a lot of times those are meshed together.
Yeah.
So how do you fit those, you know, and have them work well together? So I, you know, specialize in working a lot in diving into procrastination tactics and which ones you have and why you have them. And then, you know, managing your time, your energy, your attention, your focus, and then organization of everything, you know, of even just your mind, how you're, you know, all the thoughts and all of the things that are constantly flowing through your mind, you know, getting those out and getting them organized so that you can function as a creative human being. I really believe that so many of us have so much brilliance and creativity inside of us, but because we're so weighed down by all of our just nonsensical thoughts that are happening, whether they're productive or non-productive, it doesn't even matter. Just there's so many of them. that we can't allow ourselves to really like go big or expand into our world, because we're just sitting here just going around and around with the same thoughts, just trying not to forget them all the time, versus figuring out a way to put them in a safe place so that you can go back to them, but then leaving our mind open as a white canvas to be able to continue to create brilliance.
That's amazing. There's so many things about your story that are just absolutely inspiring and enthralling. And one of them that I keep coming back to is that at any point in your story, you could have taken some big leaps, but you wouldn't have been ready for them. But the thing that's really interesting to me is that in the meantime, you were taking a lot of small steps that allowed you to take the big leap without having, without having to worry about the fall so much, or without worrying about hitting bottom. So it's interesting to me that your strategy is somewhat, the thing that I keep coming back to is that your strategy is one that people who want the magic button are going to be disappointed in.
Yeah.
But it is the strategy that works. It is the strategy that has now resulted in the life that you have. And the way that you describe it now is that you are living your best life. Well, tell us about that.
I can't, like, I sit down sometimes and I can't even believe that this is my life. I just can't, like, I just remember so vividly how helpless, like, I felt so, there was no way out. It was impossible to escape any of the situations, right?
Yeah.
Any of them, the leaving the religion and living below the poverty, that seemed impossible. And then falling into this relationship and the ins and outs of that was impossible. And then trying to figure out how to escape the first time was impossible. And then the second time impossible. And then the third, it's like, there's so much of like, there's no way I could have ever known that the lightness, the relaxed, the calm, like very little anxiety that I feel now in my life would exist.
Yeah.
It's like I'm two totally different people. And I was always in such a state of like being wound up and having to be like walk on eggshells and watch all the things and be defensive all of the time and high alert and my blood constantly kind of boiling like this, to now just like breathing and just being able to lead my life. And my fiance is wonderful and he's kind and he's soft and he's understanding and patient. And my son is just such a breath of fresh air, great communication skills. And he's got my drive and he has my business sense and he has my time structure and organization. It's just if I had to put it into words, I would say this: you have to try to reach the level of which you are desiring. And you just have to keep trying. You have to, because the feeling that I feel now is worth every single thing. It's worth every single fear and every single struggle and challenge and wanting to give up and just saying, I can't, and just forcing myself to open up and say, how can I? How can I?
Yeah.
And it's that thought process of I can't, it's impossible, but how can I? What if I could? I never wanted to look back at my life and think, what if?
Yeah.
I used to say that I live a what if lifestyle. I never wanted to look back and say, what if I would have done it one more time? What if I would have tried one more time? What if I would have just done that one more thing? I never want to look back and be able to say, what if? I want to always be able to look and say, I'm so glad I did.
Wow, Sabrina. That's a perfect way for us to draw this this time to a close. I'm just blown away by your story and by you as a person. I feel very touched and inspired by what you've shared here. I'd like to talk a little bit before we're done about Her Version. I really want people to listen to what you're doing there. Can you talk a little bit about Her Version, what it is, what your inspiration was, and some of the things that are happening there?
Yeah, so Her Version just started out as a YouTube channel with me telling my story. I was her,
Yeah.
my version, because obviously everyone in my life has their own version of what they think my story is. But I have a right to tell my version, my perspective of it. So I just kind of started to tell my own story, just little bits and pieces, little videos. And what started happening is women predominantly started to come out of the woodwork of like, wow, your story is very much like my story, or I can totally relate to this story. And as I was on my healing journey, which I already had been on, I started to think to myself, these women need a place to tell their story, to share their perspective of all the stuff that they've been through. They have the right to share the triumphant and victorious things that they've done. There's people all around us who have done strong, brilliant, courageous things. But when do you ever get to talk about it? Like, you don't just like sit down and say, hey, I did this one thing. There's never an opportunity. So I opened up the YouTube channel into offering it to people who wanted to share their story, and did more research and figured out how to make it a podcast. And now I have interviewed probably over 360 or 70 women who have told their story of, struggle to triumph.
Yeah.
And the entire thing is just based on community. It's based on storytelling. It's based on inspiring other people to recognize that the darkness that they're in right now can turn into light if you take some of these ideas that work for your situation, and in order to pull yourself out of that.
Very good. Her Version, folks. You can find more information about Sabrina and all of the things that she's doing at sabrinavictoria.com. There will be a link in the description. And Sabrina, one last thing, and that is, I'd love for you to tell us who are the people that need to find you and what do they need to do now?
I love that. So I predominantly do work with women. Usually women who are struggling with overwhelm. That's like my keyword.
Yeah.
Feeling the stresses of all of the things, especially those who are entrepreneurs, when you're trying to balance both, and just feeling just this anxiety or this overwhelm on a daily basis, is who I work with. Where you can find me, I'm everywhere. If you just Google Sabrina Victoria, my website is sabrinavictoria.com.
Yeah.
And I'm predominantly on Facebook and LinkedIn. That's where I spread most of my goodness. And I would love for anyone who's open to it to join our Facebook group, which is hernation.life, if you do the search bar.
Okay.
And it's a whole plethora of women in there just committed to rising.
Wow. Well, this has gotten my morning off to an amazing start, Sabrina, and I just can't thank you enough for your willingness to be, completely open about what's happened in your life and the way that things have turned for you and the way that you've turned things for yourself. Just a wonderful, inspiring way to get started today. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for listening to Your Own Best Company. If you enjoyed the show, would you do me a favor and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast host? If you really love it, leave me a review or share it with your circles. If you feel like your career is reaching a dead end, or you're feeling a deep sense of dissatisfaction in your work right now, I help people discover their gifts and then find or create new opportunities that are the best fit for their talent, experience, and lifestyle. Email me at coaching@franklintaggart.com for more information. I also help people start, finish, and launch creative projects, and I offer an ongoing marketing mastermind for solopreneurs and freelancers. More information on these programs and services can be found at franklintaggart.com. Thanks again for spending this time with me.